Listening Fanfiction presents Notes Concerning Certain Performances of Hamilton by Skew Scribe, obviously based on the musical Hamilton by Miranda, narrated for you by Sierra Feast. 1. They go through the requisite amount of, hey, this doesn't look like heaven, this looks like a theater, which takes more time than you might think, especially since they aren't all speaking to each other. Hamilton is refusing to acknowledge anything Jefferson says. Jefferson wants to be addressed as Mr. President, and Eliza keeps deliberately stepping on Burr's foot. Madison is just glad to not be coughing. He breathes in and out, nudges Jefferson, smiles. It's Angelica who finds the books. Sometime after that, John Lawrence finds the first playbill. And, well, there's nothing else to do. Pity them. They can't even make the obligatory Waiting for Godot reference. 2. The first time around, they have to do it all script in hand. Eliza plays her husband. Being him, singing and rapping his lines is like learning a new grammar. By the end of Act 1, she's flushed pink. Everyone has been chanting her name. The longer they say Alexander, the more it sounds like Eliza, as if all of this is for her. And she's been moving so quickly, her skin burns, as if she will tear through it, step out, take flight. In Act 2, she moves on Maria Reynolds, played by Burr, with a kind of ruthlessness. She says he's left her helpless. He sings, I didn't know any better. She says she's ruined. Here's the kicker. He agrees. Yes. They both sing in tandem. Lafayette plays Jefferson. Jefferson plays Lafayette. No one can tell the difference. They finally compromise so that Jefferson plays Lafayette with his hair undone, and Lafayette binds his back to play Jefferson. Also, Jefferson will stop trying to do Lafayette's accent because it makes everyone uncomfortable. They spend hours in the wings practicing Guns and Ships and Washington on Your Side together. They all like their doubles because they have all, at one point, been lonely. Washington, without wife or family, still is. Hercules Mulligan is pretty impressed with himself, having a real-life eventual president look-alike. He and Madison collectively decide they need more onstage time, and so they bribe, with buttons pulled off their costumes, with favors, whoever is playing them that time to sneak into the backgrounds of scenes. Peggy impulsively kisses Maria. Maria less impulsively kisses Peggy. It's awkward in close quarters, but no less awkward than literally everything Alexander Hamilton does, or ever has done. Eliza is at some pains to establish their fingerprints are different, and that Peggy still has a scar on her knee from when they were children. Peggy plays Alexander, and Maria plays John Lawrence. Sometimes, at least. It depends what's on the playbill for that night. 4. Burr plays Eliza. When he sings that he stops wasting time on tears, that he lives another 50 years, and it's not enough, the lights reflect off sweat and tears on his face. Hamilton, playing Hamilton, promises not to ever make Burr feel helpless. Burr, either breaking character or playing it superbly, looks doubtful about that. Oh, there's some shit now, Jefferson gleefully says. That particular night, he is playing Madison, and Madison is playing him. He likes those nights best. He is uncomfortable when the playbill puts him into the chorus, especially when he has to move his own staircase across the stage, strain his muscles, watch the spotlight fall on someone else. Death has made him aware of some irony about his person that he never could discern before. Sometimes he moves his hand back and forth in front of the light or looks at Lafayette, and he can almost tell something about the meaning of being human, about who is allowed to be. He holds his breath every night waiting for the casting decisions to be read. You could have done so much more if you only had time, Burr sings, and his voice cracks. Eliza, next to him, singing her sister's part, falters for a moment in her hatred of him and never entirely recovers it. The next night, she plays Burr and moves them all to undignified sobbing. 5. The king insists on playing himself or not playing at all. He stamps his foot. Night after night, no one is sure how long, he gets assigned to the chorus. And Samuel Seabury, whom he plays with relish and tragic ineptitude because he's unwilling to be outshouted by that night's Hamilton, a brash Hercules Mulligan. Then the chorus again. My theory is it's a purgatorial process, Seabury says to him. Once we are refined, we will fade away into whatever comes next. I am refined, the king pouts, twisting his toes into the floorboards. I have always been refined. They should refine. I think, Seabury says doubtfully. They are? Samuel Seabury is very kind to the man he politely addresses still as Your Majesty. But he has been playing the king's part night after night, and his head aches from the weight of the crown, and he is starting to hear how shallow and empty all the words sound on his tongue. He means it when he says he will go mad. There has got to be a limit to all this. He takes King George III's hands in his, and he feels... What? The strange fragility of flesh. There was never any divine right there at all. And he feels compassion for this man for not understanding that. The next night, he plays himself, and he yields the stage to Hamilton. King George plays his own part to perfection. He is petty and madly whimsical. Some strange alertness glitters around him, but perhaps it's just the light dancing off of the jewels. 6. Angelica plays Hamilton and feels ascension. Then she plays Washington and feels the weight of achievement, the boulders on her back that threaten to weigh her down before she can even get off the ground. She scowls at the lights and tells the next playbill, before she opens it, that if the lesson here is that the cost of power renders power not worth wanting, she will be raised to learn it. She will die not knowing it. She has died not knowing it. She opens the playbill. She is playing Thomas Jefferson. Yes to the strut, yes to the flaunt, no to everything else, but they are gonna carve her face in the mountainsides. She knows it. Eliza plays Madison. Why, she even brings the thunder. She says gleefully to Angelica's triumph over that night's Hamilton, a somewhat out of his element Charles Lee, not even noticing she's flubbed to some extent the line. Angelica doesn't care. She is the lightning. After that, she's never again assigned only to the chorus. She burns too brightly for the background, and the playbills seem to understand that. 7. Lawrence never gets assigned to play Eliza. He knows why. He has always understood her part of the story. I was not brought up to believe I deserved any part of your fictions, he said to Hamilton. So I do not need to be taught sympathy with her. I have it. This is in between shows, when they're all sitting with their feet dangling off the stage, eating the craft services food that intermittently bestows itself upon them like manna, animal crackers, excellent cheeses, sparkling white grape juice, slices of green apple. Eliza is talking with Burr. They have these polite conversations now, where they talk about weather that they can't see and don't know for sure exists. And she hears briefly and turns her head. The perfect seashell of an ear catching forever the sound of the ocean. What to do with it? At the next performance, Eliza plays Lawrence and Hamilton plays Hamilton. There's something about having her Alexander at the end of the words she sings to him that makes her reconsider what they mean. You're the closest friend I've got, she says, her forehead against his. And he is, truly. He always has been her dearest friend, and now for some reason, playing Lawrence, she has to watch him walk away. She has to say a toast at his wedding. She finds Lawrence after the show. You were a really good Washington, she says a little awkwardly. Lawrence wrinkles his nose. I can't ever get him right. It's like every time I don't listen to myself, and every time I have to get into character and think I'm doing the right thing. What am I supposed to get out of that?
You're supposed to live into Act 2.
His mouth quirks. Maybe.
This is a strange place, Eliza says, looking around at the lights, the polished and scratched floorboards, the carton of warm orange juice in Thomas Jefferson's gesturing hand, her husband trying on the king's crown. Every night we seem to find beauty in the unspeakable, or some truth inside a lie.
Now we can all sing, Lawrence offers. I couldn't before.
She smiles. Yes, and we can all sing. So perhaps, since this place is so strange and since we are in it, there are things that could happen here that could not happen somewhere else.
Your sister.
My husband, she says. She finds herself holding an animal cracker, an elephant, and bites into it. The taste is sweet and crisp, like honey. You're Alexander. Lawrence nods, once, twice, 3 times. His eyes are immense.
Eliza offers him an animal cracker.
Here, we can share.
8. Washington plays John Lawrence for 6 shows straight before he plays himself once more. When he gets to his farewell address and sings that he is unconscious of intentional error, the words stick in his mouth. Lafayette, amiably playing Hamilton and struggling with lines where he must insist he isn't Washington's son, helps him through it by grabbing onto his hand.
This, Jefferson points out, is not in the script.
But they hold each other's hands very often lately. Jefferson shouldn't even talk. He's clingier than ivy. Later, Washington plays Hamilton, and Hamilton plays Philip, and everyone cries, which is the only thing they've all been doing as much as they've been holding hands. 9. Philip thinks it's all sort of cool, honestly. He doesn't really know why he's there, and he cycles through roles at random and learns very little from them. No one is close to his age, even though some of them really should be. But Hercules Mulligan, in Loco Parentis, plays cards with him in between shows. His mother and father both cry into his neck, and Lafayette teaches him how to rap in French. George Eaker mends fences with him pretty early on. I guess I'm sorry I called your dad a scoundrel and then shot you. You're the only person here I actually know, so... And then spends the rest of the time giving a wide berth to Philip's parents. Sometimes they eat peanuts together in the box seats when they aren't on stage. Buzz off, Eaker says when Philip elbows him to point something out. I'm watching the show now. This is early on and his smile is tentative and unsure. They hear this line every night. Philip grins at him. Forgiving your murderer is another part of being a Hamilton with pride. He has got this down. 10. Jefferson plays Hamilton with obnoxious vigor. No, Burr says. Vigorous obnoxiousness. He is sitting on Jefferson's staircase with one of the prop pistols in his lap. Hamilton is sitting several steps above him. If you asked him, he would say he's thinking deep thoughts about the problems affecting them all. Democracy, judgment, forgiveness, why Burr's hair hasn't grown out even though they don't have any razors. The last one is closest to being true. It brought home to me somewhat, Hamilton says, that I may not always have been the easiest person. No, Burr says, and this time his tone is sharp. It's louder than the shot he fired just an hour ago. Don't apologize to me, Alexander. He folds his hands together. His fingers are shaking. My first friend, Hamilton says. He doesn't complete the line. He stands, moves down, and shares Burr's step. He is willing to sit there for as long as it takes the trembling to stop. Playing Burr, Eliza, and Washington. Alexander has acquired patience. 11. This playbill is different. Hamilton, an American musical. Final performance. Yo, what the F is this? Just wait, King George III says, miffed. Now we'll be down to nothing but animal crackers and oral sex. No one make eye contact with him. Burr says, just continue to look at the paper. It's the most straightforward set of casting decisions they've seen yet.
Everyone will be playing themselves. The only oddity is that they're all cross-listed with the ensemble, which means that in their downtime, instead of chilling off to the side with, well, animal crackers and whatever, they will have to stay on stage. Also, the list of musical numbers is missing, which is strange, but certainly not a problem. They all know all the parts, backwards and forwards by now. Jefferson has had my shot stuck in his head so many times that when someone finds him beating his forehead against the wall, they just nod in right understanding and leave him alone. Okay, Alexander Hamilton says, climbing up on the table. Oh no, Lauren says, don't get into character yet. Hamilton righteously ignores him. We may not know what will happen after tonight. I just said, George whines, eating animal crackers off his fingers. But the music cues up out of nowhere. Great show, everybody! Hamilton yelps and jumps down off the table. That night they are all brilliant, effervescent, bewitched. It isn't lighting or posture that makes Philip so young in Take a Break. It's something else. Hamilton feels it too, feels the strength and flying out of his body whirlwind scariness of once again being 19, before it feels it once again slip away. They are gems in some tumbling kaleidoscope. Briefly consigned to the chorus, they twirl past each other, slip their hands into each other's, hold on, let go, hold on again. Odd mistakes that aren't mistakes make their way into the production. Hamilton kisses Lawrence. Jefferson cries at the end of It's Quiet Uptown. The king actually sounds sincere. George Eager brings Eliza a bouquet made out of past playbills. Then, the way they do every night, they find their way to the duel. The third duel. The next person to sing Most Disputes Die and No One Shoots is getting punched in the face. Hamilton says one day very loudly to no one in particular. Half Burr's lines in The World Was Wide Enough are deformed by the way his mouth keeps twisting. His breath comes out in ragged pants. Then comes the moment. Wait! He calls to himself, to his past self, across the years, across the realities, even because who knows where they are? Who knows what this is? But nonetheless, as he always does, as he always must, he pulls the trigger and nothing happens. The prop gun is jammed. The ensemble lapses into confused silence. This has never happened before. Their costumes have never been torn. Their hair has never grown. Variety has never shifted their infamous custom. And night after night, this has closed their play. But now there is nothing. Hamilton looks at the pistol in Burr's hand, which is stubbornly refusing to uncoil its plume of suggestive smoke or uncork its sound, and says, awkwardly, well, it's good that you waited. I was aiming at the sky. Yes, Burr says. I can see that now. But he's lying. He can't see anything at the moment. His eyes are blurred. Everything is a flood of disordered lights. The music, the food of love, is playing on and on from their invisible orchestra, but it's playing a medley, and he cannot pull the songs apart. He thinks about offering to let Hamilton shoot him, but Hamilton has already dropped his weapon and is crossing the stage to him. The spotlight trails after him as obedient as a puppy, and Burr, for the first time, does not mind that. Does not mind that fame and glory, even here, seem to be Hamilton's part. What he sees is Hamilton bringing the light to him. What do we do now? Burr whispers. I don't know, Hamilton says, and just like that, the house lights are starting to rise. I guess we ad-lib. End of Notes Concerning Certain Performances of Hamilton by Scioscribe. If you enjoyed this recording or the content, feel free to leave a comment below or a review of the original story from the link in the descriptions. Thank you for listening.